All right, and we are live. And I have a very special, very amazing lady to introduce you to today, Gail Ferguson Jones. She recently hit bestseller on the 20th of this month, and I'm so excited that she said yes to sharing with you about her journey, about the book, about what she does, so that you guys can join in her amazingness too. So welcome, Gail. I'm so happy to have you.
Yes, yes. Hi, Vickie. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for Easy Rider.
Yeah, for sure. It was such a joy to have you in the program. And, watching people just go through the process and get to bestseller and then the celebration and the like I don't think is really describable unless
Yeah.
you've been there. And that's one of the things that I want to have you try to share with people so that they'll understand what it means to really become a bestseller, to go through that writing process and what could be in the future. So first, I'd love to ask you, just in general, let people know who you are, what do you do in the world?
I'm a um, I'm a certified peer recovery coach, which means I work with as a peer with families who have loved ones struggling with addiction and alcoholism, drugs, eating disorders, whatever the addiction is. Um, I've been through that struggle, so I know what they go through, and I guide them through recovery the same way that I was guided through recovery, how I actually put together my own recovery, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
what the book tells. That's the story the book tells.
Exactly. And I do want to get to the butterfly effect a little bit later, so we'll just tease you guys about that.
Yes.
But first, what made you decide that writing a book was the thing you wanted to do?
Well, of course, there's always first, everybody feels like, the catharsis of it. So I started out thinking I was writing a memoir. And it's been quite a journey because it's actually been 5 years in the making. And it wasn't so much the writing, but I had the great opportunity to go to a writer's retreat in Bali, a 30-day retreat to write your book in 30 days.
Yeah.
So we all were there writing memoirs because for some reason we all felt that's what we needed to do. And then I came back and I worked with some developmental editors, but I knew that something was missing. I couldn't really figure out how the people I wanted to reach were going to benefit from a memoir.
Hmm.
And so I kept putting it off. I kept going to writing conferences and I kept dealing with editors. And until I met Vickie, she gave me the golden key. No memoir. And I couldn't finish the last part of the book because I knew what I wanted people to know, but I didn't until Easy Writer.
Yeah.
That's when I figured out what I wanted to really accomplish besides just telling my story.
Right, right. Because I'm always like,
Mm,
no on the memoir. But so many people are like you, and that's where they start with, and that's not wrong because
right.
we need to share the journey. We need to share our story because that's how people connect with us, right?
Yes.
We always talk about in marketing how people buy with their emotions, and then justify it with their logic. And it's the same thing when you are a coach and you want to use your book to then get clients. You got to hit them with the emotional part. And sometimes people think that they're just going to write the memoir, but
That's
then they
right.
don't know how to connect it. So this is not an
Yes.
uncommon story. There's so many people in Easy Writer who started out that way too, and then all of a sudden was like, "Oh, yeah, this is it." And I'm actually really glad, Gail, that something within you said that there was
Yes.
something missing, and that you
Yes.
listened to that, because not everybody gets that. So you got a good connection, right?
Yes. I mean, I was being pushed to like go ahead and go into create space and push this book out, but I just knew that no, this is not. And being a journalist and all, I couldn't just do that.
Yeah.
I just didn't. Now let me add one other thing.
Yeah.
The other thing for me was I had to switch from journalist mode to telling my own story.
Oh, yeah.
So when I first started going out speaking, telling this story, it was brought to my attention. You're telling your own story as if you're reporting on somebody else. And so that's kind of what pushed me into memoir mode. Like, how can I speak in my own voice and share what is not really in some parts, a little embarrassing. So we have
Sure.
to get through, but you kept saying you have to be authentic. That's what they want. They want that raw truth. But
Right.
also not just to make it a tell-all or a tearjerker or whatever, but to
Exactly.
have a real purpose to it. I didn't get until Vickie.
Oh, thanks, Gail. So I would love to dig into a little bit of the part where you said it was kind of embarrassing to share some of those things because people said that to me before. Oh, but what if they know that about me? What are they going to think? How
That's
did
right.
you get over feeling like people were going to judge you or not like you or think something, whatever that thing is, if you shared your story?
Well, that was part of the 5-year process. So it took going out and telling the story, first of all, speaking in public and just getting it out there. And it was interesting because one person and I, of course, it wasn't all the details and all, but the general, and that's kind of where I came up with my general outline for the book,
Yeah.
was through my signature talk.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so one person who heard me tell the story and then the first time and then heard me 2 or 3 years later said, wow, you're just a different person. The first time you were sad, you were, you were down, you didn't really project. And then over time, but also um, the recovery community, which is sharing, is a lot of what we do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so the more you speak about it, you just get more comfortable, and it actually adds some energy to your writing. I would put it that way. Just like when I first read your story about your Lyme disease and all, it had a lot of life to it. The story had life to it.
Yeah.
And that was real important for me. And that's what was missing again as a memoir. It was kind of flat. I don't know how to describe that. It didn't have the punch. But
Yeah.
once I had my audience in mind and what I wanted to accomplish with them,
Mm-hmm.
then I was able to give it a little zing.
Yeah, that zing, call that sizzle, right? So while you were writing, did you come up to like anything that um, you would consider like an obstacle that you had to overcome that stands out for you?
No, well, okay. The obstacle was, and the reason why I signed up for 6 months, because when I first signed up, and I wanted to give myself that pressure of jumping in right away, of not
Yeah.
hemming and hawing and waiting. And I don't really have the time right now, but I really didn't have the time right then. I was, especially since the shutdown and just being on Zoom constantly, coaching and meetings and studies and so many things. So the other important thing is, and this is a part of my journalism experience, and this was the missing key also, having a deadline.
Yeah.
So with Easy Writer being giving you a certain amount of weeks,
Yeah.
months, whatever you need,
Yeah.
that is real important. That's real important. That gets you. And I realized that that's what I was missing before. You can't depend on yourself to give yourself a deadline. You
Ain't
really
that
can't.
the truth? Yeah.
You can't. And so it is best to get involved with something that's going to give you that just a window to get it done.
Yeah. Well,
And then in that window were the steps, were the modules.
Right.
And so that worked perfectly because it took the guesswork out of it for me.
Yeah, my book that I wrote in 4 days, when people go, "Oh, well, how did you do that?" I'm like, "Because I had a speaking gig that I was going to. I wanted to have the books for that. It
Uh,
wasn't my event, so I couldn't say, "Oh, push it off another 2 weeks, push it off another 2 weeks," right? There are all these people involved. I wasn't in control of that, and I decided that it was important enough to me, and so I got that book written in 4
yes,
days, and there's a lot to be said about those deadlines, right? We're really, um, can I say lax? I guess the word is lax with ourselves sometimes,
yes.
um, on certain things, and then we buy our own excuses of why we can't do it. So I love that you brought that up. Um, so I know your book is about getting out of codependency.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about the story for anybody who's listening now that might be in that situation or might need this book for themselves or a family member? Um, what's inside it that's going to really help them?
Well, what's inside it? First, I'm the maternal granddaughter of an alcoholic, the daughter of an alcoholic father, and the widow of an alcoholic. And I did not realize the lifetime of trauma that we live through, that lives in our cells and our DNA from that experience. So I just went through life like, life is tough, stuff happens, and I'm strong and I'm good. And then I had a little breakdown. I realized, okay. And my doctor was like, well, I've been trying to tell you that this is why we have these stubborn health issues.
Mm,
So that's the first part of the book, which is why it's important for us to get the help we need, why it's important to understand how family situations, how relationships can affect us in a negative way, and how we, even though it's from a place of love, that we mismanage situations.
mm,
And so my family, we mismanaged all those relationships terribly, and we just didn't know any better.
yeah.
And so then the second part of the book is my recovery, where I learned better. And as Maya Angelou says, when you know better, you do better. So
Yep.
that's the second part of the book. And then the third part of the book is, and it tells also all the benefits of my recovery. And that's like becoming a podcaster, traveling the world, because I have all new friends and people, connecting with people that do different things instead of staying stuck in my victimhood from how did I inherit this family with these problems.
Yeah.
And so then it ends on a high note with, if you coach with me, I'll
Right.
take you with me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we'll be butterflies rising.
Yeah. And through your journey of recovery, you came up with the butterfly effect as well, right?
Yes, yes.
So can you share a little bit about that? Not like to give it all away and tell people all the steps or anything, but how did that process come about? How does that help people?
So the butterfly effect, the name and the spelling, which is not the normal spelling, but it's a hack so that you find me at the top of the Google list, because there are so many butterfly effects on Google. So I just created that little hack, and I'm always at the top. If you so it's
Yeah.
BUTTRFLY. And so you can find me easily on the Google list. And it's the butterfly effect is that just the slightest flutter of a butterfly's wings is said to change the world, can
Mm,
change the world. And so the point is, just as the butterfly goes into the chrysalis and metamorphosizes, we can make those changes. We can't change anybody else. As much as we love our loved ones and we want them to get the help they need, that's their choice. but we don't have to keep crawling around like a butterfly. I mean, like a caterpillar. We can come out of that and be loved, be healed, and be free.
That's great. That's great. And I know that was a lot of the push too with getting the book out. You wanted to help
Yes.
people and so share that butterfly effect. Can you tell us what it was like going up to the day of your launch? Like, how did you feel hitting the publish button and getting it done?
Wow. Well, the marketing was another piece that I knew was missing in the past. Why I just didn't have any idea. Nobody was telling me. I've heard so many people say, they wrote books and then they just ended up with a basement full of books
Yeah.
that
Or
don't
garage,
sell.
right? Uh-huh.
That don't sell. So again, I was thinking long term, like, okay, writing the book is just one step. How am I going to? And Vickie, it never crossed my mind that I could be a bestseller. That wasn't even in my thinking. I just, we all just want to say we want to be we want to be an author.
Yeah.
And so, of course, that also, when I saw my friend Rainey Hiley hit bestseller list with you, I texted her right away, like, wait, how did you do that? And she said, you got to go with Vickie. So that's how that all happened.
Cool.
So the marketing, I wouldn't know. Oh, another thing that really struck me going from a memoir to a book was seeding through the book.
Yeah.
No other editor had even suggested anything like that. That was real important to me to get out of the memoir mode because I still didn't know how to, and I read it. I did buy some of our other people in our group. I did buy their books. And I was seeing them mention their coaching programs throughout the book. And then when I went through the modules, I was like, oh, that's what they were doing. So that was really good. That was a missing piece. And the marketing was driving me crazy. And I'm still working on that. But then I just did word of mouth to everybody who saw me, because a lot of people knew I had been working on this book for a while. So my father-in-law has been bugging me like for years, like, when am I going to be? And he wanted to be in it so bad, but he's not, because he's not an alcoholic. So now he's already, the first day when his girlfriend sent him from Facebook that it hit #1, he called me right away. Where's my signed copy?
That's so sweet.
So I had so many people over the years waiting. So I just, hit my MailChimp newsletter. I just, my Butterfly Effect Facebook page and social media. And I still was not, it's a little nerve-wracking. It is. Because you want to believe I was having ministers pray with me.
Well, that's good.
That can work. Exactly.
Can't ever have too much of that, right?
and knowing that Vickie was a law of attraction practitioner, that was high on my list too. I said that's how she got more than 100 best-selling writers.
I remember that you said once, I hope it's okay that I share this, that you're like, oh man, I don't want to break your streak. I don't want to break your streak. And I'm thinking, that's not going to happen. Like, that's not even on my mind. I don't even think that's going to happen.
Well, you know what got me past that too? About that time, you put a post up about your first author. And that, even you were afraid. And so I felt a little better. I was like, okay. I felt a little better, more, but I can't say more confident, but.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, every single book that comes out, I think everybody has those feelings. And even my 10th book, I've done it for myself so many times. I was still scared to hit that publish button. I'm like, oh, what if there's a mistake? What if people don't like this? What if they think I'm a
Yes.
loser? What if they think my story sucks? All those things, they just happen,
Yes.
because we're human. But I think it's a testament to, you just follow the plan, you stick to the plan, you
You
execute
stick
the
to the
plan,
plan.
and it's a proven plan. So, I feel the same things that my clients feel when I do my own books, but then when you guys do yours, for some reason, I'm just like cool as a clam. I'm like, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna work out just fine. And then when I do it for myself, I have the same like heart and the sweatiness and the, oh my gosh, the same thing happens. But I think it's just because it's you, it's me, right? Um,
Yes. I wouldn't even, I had told myself I wasn't going to look till the afternoon at the rankings.
yeah.
And then I had a class in the morning, so they were asking me what's going on, and I'm like, let's just focus on class. But and I will say this, I didn't realize how much of an adrenaline rush it all was
Yes.
until the book came out Tuesday. We found out because some technical problems at
Yeah.
Amazon. We found out on Wednesday, and then I literally crashed for the rest of the week. I couldn't get out of bed hardly.
I believe it. I believe it.
But
Totally.
it was a good crash.
Yeah, well deserved. You should stay in bed and eat bonbons and watch Netflix or whatever you did. Cool. So after you hit bestseller, did you do some sort of celebration? Did you go out with friends? What did you do to celebrate?
Well, I had so many phone calls come in.
Yeah,
The first day, invitations started coming in for guest spots. Um, and I spent, but yeah, there was a lot of celebrating, but it was people, text messages,
yeah,
Facebook, um, phone calls.
yeah,
So that was everybody excited. I just got another a friend in Hawaii, and
yeah,
oh, it was great to know that friends bought multiple copies. Some people did it for promotions. One group I belong to, they bought 20 copies, and they gave them away as a promotional.
yeah.
Another friend in Hawaii, he bought 15 copies, and I just heard from him this morning. He texted me and said, well, what's going on with the launch now? I'm like, well, we launched. You know that. Because people were just, everybody was waiting with bated breath all day. And I'm hearing from people already who are saying, this book has given me a lot to think about in my own life, and I really appreciate your courage in doing this.
Yeah.
So that is very gratifying.
Yeah. I mean, and the whole thing about that you've mentioned that you started 5 years ago and how people have been waiting in anticipation. This is one of the things that I tell people all the time is that there are people waiting for your book, whether you know them like you knew them or whether you don't. There are so many people waiting for you to show up in their life because, like you mentioned, law of attraction practitioner I am, that there are certain people that only you, like when you cross paths with, you have a certain purpose in their life. Just like this book has a purpose
Yes.
in your life, Gail, it has a purpose in somebody else's life. You have a purpose in their life. Like all of it, like gets all intertwined. And
Yes,
so when we procrastinate, those people, like literally Gail's people, waited 5 years
they did.
because, and I wouldn't say you were procrastinating, you were overcoming certain things that you knew you needed to do to get the book out properly in the way that you would feel great about it.
Yes.
So, take that away. Like if you're listening to what we're saying, like take that away, that people are waiting and they really are waiting in anticipation. We don't think so. We
Yes.
think, it's fine, whatever. We don't really see that. But to see the response now, Gail, like 15 copies, 20 copies, and they're
Yes.
giving them out to people they know that it's going to help. Like, what if that was you? Like, what if you had all these people waiting because you actually do, you just don't know it, you know?
Yes. Yes.
So, tell us what you see for the future. Like, how are you going to use the book? What do you see it doing? How is business going to change or get better?
Well, it's definitely part of my marketing strategy overall. Overall, um, I'm taking advantage of. I mean, I'm booked almost through the weekend. I mean, everything is virtual, thank goodness, or else I'd be on planes going here and there and everywhere.
Mhm.
But I have a podcast guest spot tomorrow. I have, and that's the other thing. As a podcaster, most of my guests were authors, and I was the only one. And I was finding them through their books.
Uh-huh.
Now people are finding me through my book, and
Yeah.
we're doing a lot of cross promotion, and so that's important to. And the podcasting thing was something I hadn't even thought of, and
Yeah.
again, that kind of pushed me to I need to get this book done. So
Yeah.
everything works together, and
Mhm.
as the law of attraction works, um, it does. There's synchronicity, and it just
Yeah.
happens. And Rainey and I have been on this journey. Her and I were in business class going to South Africa together, and I'm reading her book. This wasn't even her first book with you. And
Yeah.
ever since then, like whenever I see Rainey doing something, I asked her, who is that person? Who helped you with this? And it always works out. So I have to give a shout out to my girl.
Yeah, she is a complete joy. She's amazing, amazing
Yes.
lady. I just wanted to go ahead and show your book. I don't know if this is like the best. There you go.
There we go.
Just so people can see it. And I had it running across the bottom if you want to go catch Gail's book, Butterfly Rising, so you can learn about her journey. I know as well that uh, the things that you teach inside there are going to help people not just with alcoholics in their life, but
Mm,
other things. Like it applies to other codependent. Um,
yes.
how would you say that, Gail? What's the proper wording for that? I don't want to.
No, with their codependent traits, yes, because
Okay.
we all tend to have them. Actually, we
Oh
actually, in ways that we don't even realize. And I was, as I said in the book, when I went to Codependence Anonymous the first time, and they, we go through the 12 traits of codependency, and it was a mirror held up in my face,
yeah.
and they're all things that we think are good things
Hmm.
about us, and they're not. They're not.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. Well, you might want to grab her book to figure that out for yourself, guys.
So, I wanted to address people's pain points, but then it was important to use the codependency part because you don't feel the pain of codependency. But when and that's one thing, the editor, Andrea, your editor, she had to work on me a little bit about more illustrating what codependency looks like.
Mm,
She was very helpful in taking what I already had written, which didn't need a whole lot of editing, but just filling in those holes
yeah.
in the story, and really for people who don't understand what codependency is.
Hmm.
So I got to give a shout out to Andrea.
She is amazing. I've known her since I was 15. I always tell
I
people,
remember that.
yeah, yeah, we've been friends for a very, very long time. It just turned out to
Yes.
be really a wonderful thing. So, anyways, Gills, I would love like the last thing for people who are watching and they're kind of like, oh, I really have this book inside me. Right. And I always say that calling and the nudge is going to just get stronger and stronger and it's going to keep pulling you. Like you can't ignore it. It's not going to go away. Right. So,
Yes.
for those people who know that part of their journey is getting a book out, but they've either been scared or other things have held them back, what kind of advice would you give to those people?
I would say, first of all, just sit down and write. In fact, my cousin, after my book launch last week, one of my cousins called me
Mhm.
and said, I've been wanting to write a book for a long time. How did you do it? And I said, first of all, just sit down and write. Don't edit, don't self edit, don't do anything. And even if it comes out as a memoir, because that can be fixed later. because she is a coach too. So yes, sit down and write it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then so I know we're easy writer. I don't know what else to say.
I didn't even care to say that, but that's a great idea. Sign up for Easy Writer.
That's the only, and it's just week after week, module after module. It's just, I was like, wow, why didn't anybody tell me this before? And your videos are fun. I mean, you're just so energetic. And our coaching calls, our group coaching calls are fun. Everybody supports each other. And I can't tell anybody how to do it any other way.
Thank you. All right. The way to do it is join Easy Writer. I do think that there's a lot to be said for having a community and accountability and other people who are going through it too, because I know that, and I see it because all of you guys are friends on my Facebook timeline, like the support, the cross support, even like months and months later, I still see the people in our community as tight friends. You know, you guys talk to each other, I'm sure, in Messenger and whatever that I don't know about. And I love seeing that. It's almost like a mom seeing all her kids get along really well and come together for family reunions, you know? And so it's really, really a great thing. I think sometimes that is actually the thing that people need the most, is the community, seeing that other people are doing it, watching it. Because, oh my gosh, some of you guys are a little bit competitive too, because you know, Katie had hers, and then Alfie had to outdo her with like, Katie did it in 6.5 hours, and Alfie's like, you know, the only thing I want to beat Katie. And then you're like, I just want to be like Alfie.
That's right. And then Kelsey, yes, we all have, and you know, another thing you just said, so lately I'm looking at my friends, some of my friends posts, my personal friends on Facebook. And I'm noticing that now they're friends with you, and you're liking their posts, and they're like, and I'm like, how did they get in with Vickie? How did Vickie get in with this one? So we grow the network. We grow the network, and that's great too. That's great too.
Because then, you know, the more people that network grows, the more little minions, I guess, you have telling people about butterfly effect, right? And butterfly rising, so that people can grab the book and then get help from you. So it's all the way it's supposed to work, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, Gail, do you have any last words or last thoughts? Otherwise, you know, I thank you for being on.
No, when's our next coaching call? Is it this afternoon or next week?
No. The next one is August the 5th.
Okay.
But it'll be soon.
That's right. And Alfie, how you like me now?
We'll have to make sure that we tag him on this. Oh boy. Michelle says she's really enjoying this. Yeah, Michelle, you're next, girl.
Yes. Yeah, that was exciting having us all in a row. I remember that Katie was the first one. I had just gotten to the program. She was the first one, and I bought her, and she was the first one I saw the seeding through the book. And so it's been really fun. It's been exciting. It's been, and I couldn't have happened without, you know, me jumping into this program. And I'm glad that I got it done.
I'm so glad too. I am so glad. You could not leave those people waiting any longer, Gail.
No. And one last thing though, the Bali retreat. So out of like 24 of us, I'm only the second one.
Wow.
And so we have a private Facebook page, and they were all like, wow, Gail, you really did it. And I'm encouraging them, like, because they all have great stories. And so they're asking me, so I'm posting the Easy Rider there too.
Thank you so much, Gail. I appreciate it. Appreciate it a lot. And thanks for being on and being so willing to share your whole entire journey.
Oh, it's my pleasure for sure. My pleasure for sure. Thank you, Vickie. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.